Mina had lived in the peaceful neighborhood of Rose Hill for over 15 years. After retiring from her job as a schoolteacher, she moved into a small, cozy house with a green garden, a wooden porch, and a gentle breeze that always seemed to blow at just the right time. Mina's days were quiet but full. She grew her own vegetables, fed birds every morning, and often sat outside with a cup of tea and her cat, Momo, curled up on her lap. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Mina. She was kind, soft-spoken, and always ready to help. She baked cookies for new neighbors, watered flowers for those who traveled, and always smiled when someone passed by. The Homeowners Association, HOA, never had any issues with her. In fact, most of them admired how clean and well kept her home was. But everything changed when a new neighbor moved into the house across the street. Her name was Karen. Karen came with a clipboard in her hand and a sharp tone in her voice. She introduced herself on the first day by complaining about Mina's mailbox being too colorful and her wind chime being too loud. At first, Mina laughed it off. She's probably just getting used to the area, she told herself. But soon, it became clear that Karen wasn't just strict, she was obsessed with rules. A few weeks after moving in, Karen was elected the new president of the HOA. Nobody expected it. Many of the neighbors were busy and didn't attend the meeting. Karen, on the other hand, came prepared and determined. From that day forward, the quiet peace of Rose Hill started to fade. Mina began receiving small notes taped to her door. One said her garden hose needed to be hidden. Another complained that her flower pots didn't match the community color palette. A third warned her about her front steps being 1.5 inches too high. At first, Mina tried to be cooperative. She moved her hose, painted her flower pots, and even asked her son, Raj, to check the steps. She's just doing her job, Mina told herself. But Karen didn't stop there. One morning, Mina was surprised to find a fine notice in her mailbox. The reason? Her front lawn had too many dandelions. It made her chuckle. At first they were just flowers, after all. But when she tried to speak to Karen about it, she was met with cold eyes and a firm voice. The rules are the rules, Karen said sharply. If you don't like them, perhaps this isn't the right neighborhood for you. Mina felt a twist in her heart. This was her home. She had lived here peacefully for years. Why did it feel like she was suddenly not welcome? The next few months were even harder. Karen began walking around the neighborhood with a notebook, writing down every little thing she didn't like. She handed out fines like flyers. Some neighbors whispered that they didn't agree with her methods, but no one spoke up. Most just wanted to avoid trouble. But Mina, being older and more patient than most, tried to remain calm. I won't let her steal my peace, she whispered to herself one evening while trimming her roses. Still, it hurt. Every time she saw Karen outside, she felt a knot in her stomach. She had never had problems with anyone in the neighborhood before. Now, even sitting on her own porch felt like a quiet battle. One day, as Mina was planting new flowers near her walkway, Karen approached her. You didn't submit a request to plant those, she said, tapping her clipboard. They're just marigolds, Mina replied gently. I've been planting them every year. Well, not anymore, Karen said, turning to leave. If I see anything else unapproved, there will be consequences. Mina sat back, her hands dirty, her heart heavy. She looked around at the neighborhood she had once loved so dearly. It felt like it was no longer hers. That night, she called her son, Raj. He lived in the next town over and worked in law enforcement. Raj had always been close to her, especially after Mina's husband passed away years ago. She didn't want to bother him, but she needed to talk. Ma, you don't have to live like this, Raj said calmly after hearing everything. I just want peace, Mina replied softly. You deserve peace, he said. Let me look into something. Maybe there's a way for you to leave the HOA without leaving your home. Meena didn't think it was possible. But the very next day, Raj visited her with a stack of papers and a quiet confidence in his voice. There's a clause in the HOA agreement, he said. For senior homeowners who've lived here more than 10 years. It's not well known, but it's real. You can apply to be released. Meena stared at the papers. Could she really be free? The papers Raj gave Meena were real. She read them slowly, line by line, making sure she understood everything. The clause he found allowed senior residents who had lived in the neighborhood for more than 10 years to opt out of the Homeowners Association, HOA, as long as they met certain conditions. Meena met all of them. I can really leave the HOA, she asked, still surprised. Raj nodded. Yes, Ma. You've followed every rule. You've paid all your dues. You've done everything right. They can't stop you. For the first time in months, Meena felt a small light of hope in her heart. That night, she stayed up late at her kitchen table, filling out the forms carefully. She attached old receipts, photos of her house, and a letter explaining her situation. Raj helped her organize everything and promised to mail the documents himself. Within 3 weeks, Meena received the confirmation letter. She was free. No more surprise fines. No more cold notes on the door. No more fear of being watched. She stepped onto her porch with a quiet smile and gently removed the small HOA sign from her yard. It felt like taking off a heavy coat after a long winter. Her garden looked brighter. The air even felt different. But across the street, someone was watching. Karen. When Karen saw the missing sign, her eyes narrowed. Later that day, she marched over with her clipboard in hand. You need to put the sign back, Karen said sharply. I'm no longer part of the HOA, Meena replied, keeping her voice calm. Karen blinked. That's not possible. No one leaves the HOA. I did, Meena said. She handed Karen a copy of the letter. It's legal. Everything is done properly. Karen snatched the paper and looked at it, but her face remained hard. This is a mistake. I'll be contacting the board. You're welcome to do that, Meena replied gently, then turned to water her plants. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The very next morning, Meena woke up to find a pile of trash dumped near her mailbox. At first, she thought it was an accident. Maybe an animal had dragged it there. She cleaned it up quietly. The next day, it happened again. Then, her mailbox was stuffed with old HOA newsletters. The wind chime she loved was taken down and left on the ground. Her garden gate was found slightly open, though she always made sure to close it. It was small things. Nothing big enough to prove. But they felt like little messages. Karen wasn't finished. Meena didn't want to jump to conclusions, but her heart knew. She tried to ignore it. She focused on her garden, on her baking, on her peaceful mornings with Momo by her side. But each new day brought a new disturbance. She felt watched. She felt alone. One evening, while sitting on her porch with a blanket over her knees, she looked out at the street and saw Karen standing outside her own house, just staring. Not waving. Not walking. Just staring. Meena turned her eyes away. She didn't want conflict. All she wanted was peace in the home she had built over so many years. But peace didn't seem to be welcome in Rosehill anymore. A week later, Meena received a strange letter, one she hadn't seen before. It was folded and placed in her mailbox without a stamp. The note had no name on it, but it warned that she was disturbing the harmony of the community and acting above the rules. It ended with the words, "You can leave the HOA, but not the neighborhood." Meena's hands trembled as she folded the letter back. She looked around. No one was outside. Just the quiet hum of streetlights and the rustling of leaves. That night, she couldn't sleep. The next morning, she called Raj. "I think someone is trying to scare me," she said softly. Raj listened without interrupting. When she finished, there was a short silence on the phone. "You're not imagining it, Ma," he finally said. "And you're not alone. I've seen this before. Some HOA leaders think they have more power than they really do." "What should I do?" Meena asked. "Don't worry," Raj said. "You've done everything right. Just stay calm. Let me take care of the rest." Meena didn't ask what he meant. She trusted her son. He had always been the one to protect her even as a little boy. Later that week, Raj began making phone calls. He started gathering documents, statements, and details. He knew exactly how to move. After all, he had dealt with people like Karen before, people who used fake power to control others. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make threats. He just prepared. And soon, Karen would learn a very important lesson: there's a big difference between being in charge and being the law. Meena thought things would calm down after talking to Raj. She tried to go back to her peaceful life. Every morning, she made tea, watered her garden, and watched the birds fly over her yard. Momo, her cat, followed her around like a little shadow. But even with her calm routine, Meena felt uneasy. Something in the air had changed. She noticed Karen standing at her window more often, holding her phone. Meena didn't say anything. She didn't wave anymore, either. 3 days later, something strange happened. It was a sunny morning. Meena was outside, hanging her clean bed sheets on the clothesline. She liked the fresh smell of sun-dried laundry. Just as she clipped the last corner, she heard a sound: sirens. Her heart skipped a beat. 2 police cars turned onto her quiet street and stopped right in front of her house. A few neighbors peeked out from their windows. Meena's hands froze on the clothespin. 2 officers stepped out of the cars. They didn't rush or act alarmed, but their faces were serious. "Good morning, ma'am," one of them said. "We received a report about possible illegal construction on this property." Meena blinked in confusion. "Construction? What construction? I'm just doing my laundry." The officers looked around. "Is there any renovation or building work happening here?" "None at all," Meena said softly. "Everything is just the same as it has always been." Just then, Meena noticed Karen standing on her front porch, arms crossed and smiling slightly. One of the officers asked, "Do you have any permits for recent changes to the home or yard?" "I haven't made any changes," Meena replied. "Not a single nail has moved." The officers looked at each other, then walked around to inspect the property. They returned a few minutes later. "There's nothing here to suggest construction," one officer said. "The report seems to be incorrect." Meena gave a small sigh of relief, but she was still shaking a little. "Who reported it?" she asked. "I'm afraid we can't share that," the officer replied. "But please don't worry. You're not in any trouble." After they left, Meena stood in her yard, feeling cold even under the sun. She knew who made the call. She didn't need to ask. Her eyes slowly turned toward Karen's house. Karen was still watching. Later that day, Raj came over. Meena told him everything: the sirens, the officers, the false report. Raj's face became serious. He didn't raise his voice, but Meena could see the worry in his eyes. "Calling the police without a real reason is a serious thing, Ma," he said. "People can't just make up reports to scare others." "She wants to break me," Meena said quietly. "She wants me to feel afraid in my own home." Raj placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "She doesn't know who she's dealing with." Meena looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Raj said, pulling out a small folder from his bag, "I've already started collecting evidence. I spoke to a few other neighbors. Karen has done similar things to them too: silent pressure, fake warnings, strange notes. Mina was shocked. Why didn't they speak up? Because they were scared, Raj said. Just like you felt this morning. But what can we do? Mina asked. She hides behind the HOA. She thinks she's untouchable. Raj opened the folder. Inside were printed photos, letters, and notes. People like her think rules give them power over others. But what they don't understand is that real rules protect people, not hurt them. And I'm going to make sure that's what happens here. Mina stared at her son, the same boy who once used to ride his bicycle down the same street, who used to carry her shopping bags, and who now stood beside her, strong and calm. I don't want to fight, she said. You don't have to, Raj replied. You just have to stay strong. I'll take care of the rest. That evening, Mina watched the sunset from her porch. The golden light touched her flowers, and the breeze was gentle. Momo sat curled beside her. For a while, everything felt normal again. But deep inside, Mina knew something had changed, and this time, not in a bad way. Her son wasn't just protecting her as a son. He was protecting her as a man of the law. And Karen, who believed she controlled everything, was about to face someone who actually understood what justice meant. She took a deep breath and looked across the street. Karen's porch was empty now. But the battle was no longer about fear. It was about truth. And truth always comes to light no matter how dark someone tries to make the world around them. After the police left Mina's house that sunny morning, the tension in the neighborhood grew heavier. Mina could feel it in the air every time she stepped outside. It was as if the quiet streets had turned into a battlefield, and she was caught in the middle. But she refused to give up. Not now. Not ever. Her son Raj visited her often. Every visit, he brought news, support, and a promise that filled Mina's heart with hope. One afternoon, Raj sat beside Mina on her porch, holding a cup of tea. The sun was warm, but the shadow of recent troubles still weighed on them both. Mina, Raj began, I've talked to the sheriff's office about what's happening here. They understand the problem. They know this is not just about small rules anymore. It's about harassment. Mina nodded slowly. It feels like she's trying to push me out of my own home. You're not alone in this, Raj said firmly. I've also spoken to some neighbors who have seen Karen's behavior. They're afraid to come forward, but we will protect their voices. Mina felt a lump in her throat. It was hard to see how many people were afraid of someone who should only be helping the community. Raj continued, I'm going to ask the sheriff to start an official investigation into the HOA's actions. We'll gather evidence and make sure the truth comes out. Mina smiled weakly, holding her son's hand. Thank you, Raj. I don't know what I'd do without you. Raj squeezed her hand gently. You're stronger than you think, Ma. But you don't have to do this alone. I promise. That promise gave Mina new strength. She started to see her home again, not as a place filled with fear but as a place filled with love and memories. Days passed, and with each day, Karen's behavior became more aggressive. One morning, Mina found a red warning sticker stuck on her front door. It was official looking, but Mina knew better. The sticker said, non-compliant property. Immediate action required. Mina's hands trembled as she peeled it off. Who would put this here? It had to be Karen or someone on her side. It wasn't legal. It wasn't real. She showed it to Raj when he arrived that afternoon. This isn't just harassment anymore, Raj said quietly. It's illegal. Someone is trying to pretend they have authority they don't have. Mina nodded. I'm tired of all this. I just want to live peacefully. I know, Ma, Raj said. And I'm going to make sure you can. The neighbors began to notice the tension as well. Some of them approached Mina quietly, whispering their support but too scared to speak openly. One neighbor, Mrs. Gomez, an elderly woman with kind eyes, came over one afternoon. "I'm sorry I didn't speak before," she said softly. "Karen made me afraid, too." "But you're brave, Mina. You remind us that we don't have to be afraid." Mina smiled, touched by the words. "Thank you, Mrs. Gomez. It's never too late to stand up." Mrs. Gomez nodded. "Maybe together, we can make this neighborhood safe again." Meanwhile, Raj was working hard. He spent evenings reviewing reports and speaking with his colleagues. Slowly, the pieces began to fit together: the fake warnings, the false reports, the threats masked as rules. Raj knew the time was coming to face Karen directly. One afternoon, as Mina watered her garden, Raj called her inside. "It's time," he said. "Karen's actions have been documented. The sheriff's office is ready to step in." Mina's heart pounded. She had imagined this moment many times, but now it was real. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want anyone hurt." "No one will get hurt who doesn't deserve it," Raj said firmly. "We just want to stop the harassment and restore peace." That evening, Raj prepared for what would be a long day. He dressed in his uniform, the badge shining on his chest, a symbol of justice and protection. He looked at his mother and smiled. "I'm proud of you, Ma. You stood strong when many would have given up." Mina returned his smile, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you for being my strength." Together, they prepared to face the situation not with anger or hate, but with truth and fairness. As the sun set over Rose Hill, a calm settled over the neighborhood, but the real storm was just beginning. Mina's peaceful life had been disturbed, but she was not alone. Her son stood beside her, ready to protect the home she loved. And for the first time in many months, Mina felt hope, real hope that justice would come. The morning sun poured softly over Rose Hill as Raj prepared to visit the HOA office. He wore his uniform with pride, the badge shining on his chest. But today wasn't about enforcing the law. It was about standing up for his mother and all the neighbors who felt trapped by Karen's unfair rules and actions. Mina stood on her porch, watching her son leave. She held Momo close and whispered, "Be careful, Raj." Her heart beat fast, but she knew her son was strong. She believed in him. Raj walked down the street with quiet confidence. The neighborhood seemed calm, but he knew that beneath the surface, tensions were still high. Karen was waiting for him. She had no idea who he really was. At the HOA office, Karen was sitting behind her desk when Raj arrived. She looked up with a cold smile. "Can I help you?" she asked, folding her hands. Raj showed his badge slowly, letting it catch the light. "I'm Officer Raj. I'm here to talk about some recent complaints about harassment and false reports against residents." Karen's smile disappeared. Her eyes flickered with surprise, but she quickly regained control. "There must be some mistake," she said smoothly. "I only want what's best for this neighborhood." Raj nodded calmly. "That's what I want too. But it's come to my attention that some of your actions may have crossed legal boundaries." Karen's lips tightened. "I follow all the rules." "Not exactly," Raj said gently. "Filing false police reports and threatening neighbors isn't part of any rule book. It's against the law." Karen leaned forward, her voice low but tense. "You don't scare me. I run this community." Raj met her eyes. "You don't run the law. No one does." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Raj pulled out the folder he had prepared: photos, notes, letters from neighbors who were too afraid to speak up before. "These are the facts, Karen," Raj said. "You can't control people by fear. This neighborhood deserves peace and respect." Karen's face flushed red. She grabbed the papers but couldn't hide her frustration. "Maybe it's time you listen," Raj continued. The sheriff's office will be reviewing everything. If the harassment continues, there will be consequences. Karen said nothing. Raj stood up, his badge still visible. Tell the neighbors this, they have rights. And I'm here to protect them. Back at her house, Meena waited anxiously for news. When Raj arrived home that evening, he smiled warmly. It's done, he said. The HOA board was surprised, but the truth is clear. Karen won't be able to continue her behavior. Meena's eyes filled with tears, not sadness, but relief. Thank you, Raj. You gave me back my home. Raj hugged his mother gently. You never lost it. You just needed someone to help remind everyone what fairness really means. The next few days were quieter. Karen stopped leaving notes. The strange warnings disappeared. The neighborhood began to breathe again. Neighbors who had been silent before now smiled and greeted Meena warmly. Mrs. Gomez stopped by one afternoon with a basket of fresh vegetables. Thank you for standing strong, she said. You showed us how to be brave. Meena smiled. We stood together. That made the difference. One evening, as the sun set behind the trees, Meena sat on her porch with Raj. Do you think things will stay peaceful now? She asked. Raj looked at the quiet street and nodded. I believe so. People have to learn that kindness and respect are stronger than fear. Meena looked at her son with pride. You were the hero I needed. Raj laughed softly. I just did what any son would do. Meena held his hand and whispered, you did more than that. Rose Hill returned to the peaceful neighborhood it once was. Gardens bloomed, children played outside, and neighbors talked openly. Meena's home was her sanctuary again, a place filled with love, not fear. And whenever she looked at Raj's badge hanging on the wall, she remembered the day when justice came not with anger or violence, but with courage and truth. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet that had finally returned to Rose Hill felt like a gentle promise. Meena woke each morning without the heavy weight of fear pressing on her chest. Her garden bloomed with fresh flowers, and Momo played happily in the sunlight. The neighborhood felt like home again. Raj's presence was a steady comfort for Meena, but he had more than just family on his mind. He wanted to help Rose Hill heal, not just for his mother, but for every neighbor who had been hurt by fear and silence. One Saturday morning, Raj and Meena decided to organize a small community gathering in the local park. They called it the Rose Hill Together Day, a chance for neighbors to meet, share stories, and rebuild trust. Meena baked her famous apple pies, and Raj helped set up chairs and tables. The weather was perfect, with soft clouds drifting lazily across the sky. Slowly, neighbors began to arrive, some shy, some curious, but all eager to see what this day was about. Mrs. Gomez came with her homemade lemonade, and Mr. Lee brought a basket of fresh fruit. Children ran around, laughing and playing games while parents talked quietly in small groups. Raj stood beside Meena as she greeted everyone with a warm smile. This is just the beginning, she said softly. We have been through hard times, but we are stronger now because we face them together. A few neighbors who had once been silent approached Meena, sharing their own stories of fear and relief. One by one, voices joined in a chorus of hope. In the crowd, Karen watched quietly from a distance. She wore a tight smile, but her eyes showed something different, maybe regret, maybe realization. She knew the neighborhood had changed. Her old ways no longer worked. Raj noticed Karen but didn't call attention to her. Instead, he focused on bringing people together. After the gathering, Meena and Raj walked through the neighborhood. The evening air was calm, and the street lights cast a soft glow on the familiar houses. Do you think Karen will change? Meena asked quietly. Raj paused. People can change, Ma. It takes time, but it's possible. Meena smiled, hopeful. I want to believe that. Raj nodded. Me too. Days passed, and the peacefulness stayed. Karen's presence became less tense. She began to smile more small, genuine smiles when neighbors said hello. One afternoon, Mina received a note slipped under her door. It was from Karen. "I'm sorry for the trouble I caused. I want to be part of this community in a better way. Thank you for showing me kindness." Mina's heart softened. She wrote back, inviting Karen to join the next community gathering. At the next Rose Hill Together Day, Karen came with a small bouquet of flowers. She apologized in person to Mina and the neighbors she had upset. "It's time to start fresh," Karen said quietly. "Thank you for giving me that chance." Mina smiled warmly. "We're all learning. That's what neighbors do." Raj watched from the side, proud of the change he saw. The neighborhood was healing, one step at a time. Mina's home was once again a place of joy. She no longer glanced nervously when she saw a car drive by or worried about notes on her door. Instead, she waved at familiar faces and felt the comfort of a true community. One evening, as Mina sat on her porch with Raj, she looked at the stars twinkling above. "Thank you for everything, Raj," she said softly. "You gave me more than peace. You gave me hope." Raj smiled and took her hand. "You had hope all along, Ma. I just helped you see it." Mina laughed gently. "I'm lucky to have you." "We're lucky to have each other," Raj said. And in that quiet moment, under the vast sky, Mina knew that this was the start of a new chapter, one filled with friendship, respect, and kindness. The summer sun warmed the streets of Rose Hill, but something even warmer was growing in the hearts of its residents, a new spirit of kindness and understanding. Since the last community gathering, things had changed for the better. Karen's apology had opened a door that many thought was closed forever. Slowly, the walls between neighbors came down, replaced by smiles, handshakes, and genuine conversations. Mina felt the change most in her own home. The days of worry were behind her, replaced by a peaceful happiness she hadn't felt in a long time. One bright morning, Raj and Mina walked down the street together. Children played in the yards, neighbors chatted over fences, and the air was filled with laughter. As they passed Karen's house, she was outside planting flowers in her front yard. She looked up and waved. Mina smiled and waved back. "Looks like she's really changing," Mina said. Raj nodded. "People do, when given a chance." They reached the small park where Rose Hill Together Day had started months ago. Today, there was a new sign hanging at the entrance: "Rose Hill, a community of friends." Raj turned to his mother. "You started something special here, Ma. This neighborhood feels alive again." Mina smiled, her eyes shining. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us and you, Raj. You gave us courage." Raj shrugged playfully. "I just did my part." Suddenly, a group of neighbors gathered around, carrying baskets of food and decorations. They were preparing for a neighborhood picnic, a celebration of their new friendship. Mina and Raj joined in, helping to set up tables and chairs. The sun was bright, but the smiles on everyone's faces made the day even brighter. As the picnic began, Mayor Collins came to greet the community. He praised the residents for coming together despite challenges and reminded everyone that a strong community is built on respect and kindness. Mina listened proudly as neighbors shared stories about how their lives had improved since standing up to fear and choosing hope. Karen stood nearby, quietly helping to serve food. She looked over at Mina and Raj and gave a small nod of thanks. Later, Karen approached Mina and spoke softly. "Thank you for your kindness. I've learned a lot, and I want to help make Rose Hill a better place." Mina smiled warmly. "We all make mistakes, Karen. What matters is how we move forward." That evening, after the picnic ended and the sun began to set, Mina and Raj sat quietly on the porch. The street was calm, filled with the soft sounds of crickets and distant laughter. Raj looked at the badge on the table, a symbol of his job, but also of the promise he made to protect and serve his community. "Ma," he said, "I think this neighborhood has become stronger than ever." Mina nodded. "Because we chose to stand together." They sat in peaceful silence, grateful for the journey that had brought them here through fear, struggle, and finally, hope. In the weeks that followed, Rosehill continued to grow as a community. New friendships blossomed, and the spirit of trust returned. Karen became involved in neighborhood activities, helping to plan events and even volunteering for local charity drives. She worked hard to rebuild trust, and slowly, the neighbors began to see her as one of them, no longer an enemy, but a part of the community. Mina's home was once again a place filled with joy and laughter. Her garden bloomed brighter than ever, with colorful flowers and the gentle hum of bees. One afternoon, Raj brought Mina a small gift, a framed photo of the neighborhood's first Rosehill Together Day. "To remind us," he said, "that even in hard times, kindness and courage will always win." Mina smiled and hugged her son. "Thank you, Raj, for everything." As the seasons changed, Rosehill remained a place where neighbors looked out for one another. The lessons learned from their struggles became the foundation of a stronger, kinder community. And whenever Mina looked out at the street she loved, she felt deep gratitude, not just for her home, but for the people who had come together to protect it. She knew that no matter what challenges might come in the future, Rosehill would face them together.